Hey guys, Santoli here, and I'm here just to do a recap of nationals that just occurred and what happened, why didn't I do so well, and all that kind of discussion. So as you can see here on the screen, I did go 6-3, highlighting my losses in red, and this is just one of those events where it felt that it wasn't particularly any misplays or even deck building errors, although I will talk about the deck later, things that could have potentially changed. It didn't feel like that. It just felt like one of those events where I just wasn't meant to do well. Going through my losses and the entire tournament in a bit more detail. Round one, I sit down against Mike Thomas, so competent player. He's on Dodo Razel. My hand is Holy Sue with Fire Dark, which is lovely, Mag and Nib. So against most decks, I should be feeling very comfortable. He's on Dodo Razel, which means the Mag isn't going to trade particularly effectively, nor is the Nib, unless I can bait something. He starts playing, I resolve Holy Sue Summon effect, I go special from deck, he ashes, and then the Mag and Nib just don't trade effectively enough to stop him from making a board. I end up losing that game. And then game two, I just brick. I don't open a single playable card, and I just get obliterated. And this is kind of the theme of the entire tournament, where the games where I brick are exactly the positions where I need not to because I already lost game one. After that, I do go on a bit of a win spree. I win die roll against Lulite the next match and immediately brick again. So it's just like, oh my, this is gonna be one of those tournaments. But I do manage to win the next two games, game 2 or 3 of that match, and then go, like I said, on a bit of a win spree up until the second last round where I sit down against Malice and I lose die roll. I open Baldrake Crow. They're playing Malice. It's obviously not enough to stop them. That's fine. I'll sack game one, which is what my deck kind of accepted. If I play against one of the more combo-oriented decks where Bishops and Crows aren't good against, then I'll lose game one and win the next two. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because game two I opened 3 Stake Your Souls and it it resolves, but immediately after resolving Mad Love Search, because I had Borga as the only good attribute, I get trolled, and so I have no interruptions essentially, and then I just immediately lose the game. And I did manage to go get a Borga draw because it's chain one Mad Love Search, chain two Borga bounce, affect the draw, and I drew like a rotor or something, which was obviously completely dead. So again, just another quick match where I just feel I had no agency in doing anything, and then last round I just completely brick. there's really no actions at all. It's game one, I win die roll, I pass. He's playing blue eye, so I get a turn to live and temperature top deck. And because I have all the big guys in hand and Xiaoling and stuff, if I actually draw playable, I probably still have a decent chance of winning if I draw Raisin. But I just draw another unplayable card. And then game two, I only open Stake as playable, activate Stake, it gets ashed, and that's my tournament experience. So somewhat of an anticlimactic way to end the season. I wasn't particularly a fan of this format, even though I'm playing VS and it's one of my pet decks and a deck I really enjoy. I think that the format didn't really allow it to be in a great position. As you'll see once I get to the deck list right now, there's just a lot of concessions that I made in deck building that maybe hurt me in the long run or maybe didn't, um, depending on how your outlook on it. So this is the list I played. So as you can see, I decided not to play any chummies in the main deck, and the big thing was that you have to respect the fact that when you draw chummies going first, they just lower your rating massively. And for this deck especially, because they're just not attributes at all. And everyone else that topped on VS didn't really buy into this idea. They decided to play six. I think everyone decided to play either 6 chummies or 3 chummies and 3 droll, and it just didn't really make sense to me to do that because I just felt like the games I'd be winning the die roll, if I get drolled, if I get chummied and have to rely on already having attributes in hand, I would just have such a lower win rate with playing with those cards. And so I just kind of made a deck that felt really good at going first, and still had the tools to go second. Because when you look at this deck list, I still have a lot of tech cards. I have the 5 Visuals and the 3 Crows, the 3 Ash, the 2 Nib, as well as just the Holy Sue package. And I do side the chummies, so post side I am still in a position to be perfectly fine. And when you look at the top cut of this tournament, this deck actually does really well into a lot of the decks, especially the ones in the top 8. Like, if you look at the top 8, you get Blind Stack and Gem Knights, which this deck does so much better into than the standard version because there's no chummies to be dead. If you look at the one that won, Bishop Orchest, Fiendsmith, like, again, another deck where, I don't have chummies, but that's perfectly fine. Like, I don't need to droll them and have them go Orchest combo Perulia and have them go Fiendsmith cards. I just have Bishops and Crows and Shades Effect, and you can break those boards with just Engine. And then there's the Mitsu Fiendsmith deck. Again, I'm perfectly fine playing that deck going second with just my non-engine here. And then, of course, VS, which, again, I think if I just have attributes, I'm in a better position. So I'd say even amongst the top 8, I think 4 of the decks that were there in the form of Gem Knights, Mitsu Fiendsmith, VS, and the Bestial Orcus Fiendsmith deck, this type of approach is actually better against them going second than just chummies and droll, or at least it's not worse. And so I don't think I is actually that far off in terms of making a competent deck. I think this deck list was fine, though it was a bit greedy. Yeah, the other types of decks in the top 8 would be problematic, and other decks in general. But like Dodo Razel, very hard to go second against. Mitsu Fiendsmith or Mitsu Razel and their version, I think it's definitely serviceable. You can go second into. Same with Malice. Like Malice, you draw a Nib plus a Bestial or an Ash, it does chip away a lot of the board. And VS does have a very strong engine, so you still can push into those boards. And you say, looking at this, you don't have enough ability to go second. But I think it was fine enough and enough than that you can go second. And testing, like I always had very positive win rates going second to a bunch of different decks. It wasn't insane. It's not like I'm winning 90% of the games, but I'm winning more going second than my opponents are. And so I think that's at least a good enough way of looking at the deck and saying that, choosing to play no chummies and just have a really strong win rate when you win the Dyro and still have a serviceable enough win rate going second against a lot of the decks, and then just choosing to win post side, I think was a fine strategy. It just, like I said, I was just bricking more than anything. And yes, maybe if I had chummies, I could stall a turn. They'd give me chummy draws that I didn't brick myself, or maybe I would not lose game one because I'd had chummies to stop the malice play or something. But I think it was just kind of things ended up not working out, regardless of the deck list. Like if you switch a lot of my game one and game two hands, the match would have gone completely differently. It just wasn't meant to be for this event. Go over some more specific things other than just the non-engine being no chummies and just the general attributes things. I decided to play Nib in the main because I think this card pairs really well with the Bestials and the Crows. It's really good versus Malice in the sense that if you Nib, then Ball Drake on the Wizard, or not say Ball Drake, Nib, and then have any form of graveyard disruption paired with the Nib, it means it stops Wizard and it does slow a lot of the recovery back down. Even if they end up with some form of follow-up, again, you're playing DS, you're fine playing into these half boards. It also plays very well with Baldric, where you can just go Nib and Baldric in the same chain, and then you just banish Link's Spider. It's also one of the best go first cards because it just insulates your board. It's the only one that's not an attribute, but I just wanted a little bit more over the top, especially when people are impulsing the Snow Devil, and then you just have Nib as kind of your blowout there. Other cool things, or I guess not cool things, but talking about the engine, I did decide to nearly max out big guys. So 3 Borger, 3 Xiaolong, 2 Caesar. I was testing a lot to try to figure out other good fires to play. So Krikara, Dogran, I assume trying the Regenesis fire, the Regenesis Warrior that bounces a card. It needs 2,500 to summon on the board. I was also testing Impulse Package, and they just all felt really bad. Like they just are not good cards. And I just felt like I was trying to play bad cards to just have fires to make Holy Sue go off. And instead of doing that, I decided to play Jolin because it is a consistency card. And yes, it's not a true consistency card because it doesn't do anything by itself, but it does help the Holy Sue math a lot by having both the fire and the name to reveal. It also allows you to just maintain advantage a lot better. Like Holy Sue is a very, very good card when you get Peruliate or something and you need to deviate plans, it just gives you immediate value on both turns by just summoning it. And I think that is an underrated fact that people are not paying attention to. Like I see people play one Jalong on the list. I think that's completely wrong. I think that you always need the ability to search a second Jalong because once you get the search on your turn, search on their turn, it just becomes a lot easier to fix your hands when you're getting hand trapped, when you're getting chummy or drolled. And in a lot of games, the second one came up at bare minimum. The third, I think, is a bit more credible. Like I said, I want at least another fire. And honestly, like I said, the name just being there as a Holy Sue reveal was better than a lot of the other kind of subpar fires that were there that I just didn't want to play. Impulse, I think, was the most popular one amongst other VS players that ended up topping, but I think it's just too bad and too much on that. Like it's specifically good versus Razel when they're leading Razel cards, but even if they are playing Mitsu Razel and they lead Mitsu cards, it just feels awful. It's bad in the Malice. It's fine to mirror, but I don't think it's really solving any of the issues that you have with it. Other cool things about the deck, I did decide to play the Dodo Warrior and Dodo Glove. So this is what the Razel cards are doing in their deck to make rank 4. The rank 4 I'm making is generally Dempsey if I need consistency. You cannot make Rock afterwards, so it's not a true one card starter, but because I am maxing large amounts of other engine, getting to Raisin is generally a good way to actually facilitate plays. And the other big thing with this, and the reason I chose to play this over Prosperity or over Extravagance, is because this card is a lot more flexible and it's better to draw, which is a weird thing to say. If you open Extravagance, hands that beat draw, which are a lot of them, basically if you have any way to make your first search for the field spell, the hands that beat draw now lose draw because you have to lead Extravagance. And that was the main reason I didn't want to play Extravagance, is just because it makes your deck so much weaker to draw when it doesn't need to be. Your deck is inherently good versus draw. As long as you open one of the better starters, Mad Love, Raisin, Holy Sue, stake off a lot of the hands, where you open one of these plus another card in combination, let you play through draw very effectively. And so I didn't want to play Extravagance for that reason. It's also not an attribute in that sense. And even though Earth is the worst attribute, it still is an attribute and lets you facilitate Holy Suture in 0 plays. The other thing with Dodo Warrior is it's just a high value card in general. There are a lot of times where if I open Engine, I'm able to make a Babuska, or if I'm pushing, I can make Exoton, I can then go into Zeus through that way. It just felt a very high value card, and it was definitely a card that I enjoyed in my deck list. You may ask why I'm only playing 2, and the very simple answer is that you don't ever want to draw two of this card. And it's one of these things where it looks very weird. Why am I playing two of, especially when you're playing 2-1 bricks? But this is VS, so it's a little bit different. Drawing a dead earth in your hand, where if you just draw the glove, is fine. It doesn't actually feel that bad. It's when you draw two of the pieces where they're now both dead, where it actually feels awful. And so if I'm drawing two Doodle Warriors, it's almost worse than just drawing one glove, because two Doodle Warriors, it's like, yeah, one's going to be facilitating for something, but I still have two Earths. And if I ever don't need that warrior to be doing something, it just feels awful. Whereas like just drawing the glove means I just don't have to search for an extra Earth. So VS math, you can chalk up to just weird Santoli deck building, but I really was happy with the 2-in-1 package. If you want to play the third, by all means you can. Other things in the deck list that are spicy, the anti-magic arrows. This card is a card that also performed really well. There were definitely some times where it wasn't winning the game. It was kind of liability, but it's a card that wins games that are otherwise unwinnable. So post side, people have 6 chummies in their main deck. They're going to side out 6 chummies. That means they're putting in all these degenerate cards, floodgates, solemns, mistaken arrest, stuff like that. And basically, when they're drawing multiple solemns, there is no way for you to win the game other than this exact card. People will set solemns, especially in the Mitsu board. You try me them, they give you one draw. They're saying, judgment, strike, prayers, and the Great Purification. They have like 4 back row, and this card just trades with every single direction. So what it does, for those who don't know, when you enter battle phase and then you activate, your player can respond, and then your player can activate spell traps for the remainder of the turn. And like I said, it just wins these games that are not winnable in any other way, shape, or form. So I really was happy with this card. And I think it was good theory behind it, especially because I'm only playing 6 activatable spells in the main. I'm signing out stakes, generally going second because you don't need that much consistency if I'm putting anti-major arrows in. It was good versus all the Mitsu versions. It's good versus VS because it stops Snow Devil, which is the main problem in terms of interaction that they have. And it also stops all the Malice drops, so the board is also significantly weaker. It didn't come up at all in the tourney, but there was many, many games in testing where it just robbed a completely unwinnable game. I did play the chummies. I figured where I could in. They should probably be 3 each, but like I said, I didn't have room for all of them. I decided to play the Shifter on call, but I don't think Shifter was good enough in the main deck, mainly just because it's not actually good into the meta. Like, it's obviously bad in the Malice, but even the Mitsu cards play well enough under it, and it's just annoying dealing with the Mitsu boards when you don't have the ability to add that follow-up back immediately. It was there for going first, because then when you already establish your board, it's a lot more awkward for them to deal with things, and they're losing their immediately follow-up as soon as you pop anything, as well as the fact that it's a draw out. I didn't decide to play Call By or any other, or Call By I decided to play just as the draw as well as the flexible card. I didn't decide to play Talents or any other kind of powerful go first cards because you want to draw attributes. If you get Drolled, if you get Chummied, and you have stuff like Strike in your hand, it's not a good card. You want to be able to have all your colors in your hand because that's what gives you actual further interruptions. And when you're drawing stuff like Crows and Bishops where they're now an attribute, but as well as they're actually going to do something, you know, to the board and the game state, it feels much, much better. The other big thing to keep in mind is that a lot of people are going to slide Lightning Storm into this deck. I didn't know how popular Lightning Storm back removal was going to be, but putting in those types of trap cards in to just set and then get blown up by Duster or Lightning Storm didn't feel good. Putting Talents in to get Drolled and it doesn't actually solve anything. Right? It's not giving me more attributes in my hand, and rip a card, hope it's enough. I didn't feel good. I was very happy with the go first lineup. Your deck is very good because of how consistent it is with all the attributes. And I think just the call by and the Shiver going in first was enough. And then obviously, let's see, for the mouse decks. Extra deck, there's a few spicy things. I decided not to just play a link package. I am playing the Doodle War, so I didn't want the rank 4s that actually had toolbox options. Evo Soren, this pairs amazingly with the Anti-Magic Arrows. Rocks is standard, boosted because it's one of the best cards. I did play Crazy Beast. If you draw 2 Bishios or even just Mag lets you make this. This is another card that just steals games out of nowhere. People will not be shotgunning Mercurial Interruptions, and then just making this into the Mitsu Razor board means that you can clear like completely unnecessary boards that shouldn't be cleared otherwise. There's a game testing where my opponent ended on SP, both rituals, detonator, and then it was Magatama and prayers, and I just saw my turn with 2 Bishops. It's like, standby, do you have anything? Nope. Okay, cool. We make Crazy Beast, swing with the SP, and then I attempt to suck up one in the back row. It forces a bunch of things, slam it under Zeus, clear the rest of interruptions, and now I have 4 VS cards to do whatever I want with after every interruption is cleared. So very, very good card. If you're playing 5 Bishops, I think you should be playing this. The extra deck is spacious. There's no reason not to play a card like this that can just completely obliterate the games that you shouldn't have a chance in. Other things, Paradise Smashers. This is not a card that I use too much going first. The only time I really do this going first is if I'm not playing into Nib, which means I'm opening Stake plus 2 fires, because I'll go Stake in the Xiaolong on the Holy Su, and then this will usually give me enough to then go Holy Su, special the last Xiaolong, and make on 4. Otherwise, I'm only doing this in grind game scenarios, or if my hand's super weak under draw. All the combinations of hands to make this. There's no one card combination that makes this. I don't think. At least I wouldn't be doing it. Most of them are two card combinations. It's like two card combinations of Raisin, Xiaolong, Steak, Holy Sue. Any of those kind of two of those will let you make this. Like I said, it's more one of those things where if you have a weak hand and get rolled, or if you're in a complicated game state late game, you can just slam that down and have that stick and just win the game like that. My mouse keeps hovering over this card. This card we'll talk about. I never made it. It was made by using 3 level 5 or higher monsters. It's unaffected by other activated monsters' effects. Actually, other monster effects in general. And then during your main phase, if this card was linked summoned using 3 different monsters that had different types and attributes, so basically one of your darks, one of your fires, and one of your earths, you can destroy all the cards on the field. And this is, again, just a card that was useful on the anti magic arrows. It never came up, but I think it's fine enough as it is. The deck is very spacious. You can choose to play what you want. SP Dark, I think, are mandatory. The 3 rocks, you don't have to play 3 rocks, but there isn't much better things to play. And when it comes to the grind game, it's one of those things that you need to win that game. Goss out, Moonlight cards, and then just the Zeus Dempsey for searching, raising off the Dodo, and Typhon. So overall, I am somewhat happy with my deck list. I didn't do that well, but it's hard to pin a lot of that blame on the deck list as opposed to just getting varianced. Because on one hand, I could just say, oh, I should have had more chummies in my deck, and then I wouldn't lose those game ones, and then the game twos where I brick wouldn't be an issue. But the thing is, that's not really great logic because it's very much looking back and having result oriented thinking. Because like look back to match one where I opened Mag, Nib, and Holosu. If I'm not playing against exactly Dodo Rizzo, that engine's complete. The non-engine is completely fine going to law decks. Playing against a Mitsu version, amazing hand. If I'm playing against Malice, it's still very good. It's serviceable enough. Nib plus Mag will chop off some of the board by hitting the Wizard extension. And then you can just play with your normal VS cards. Like I had Holy Sue reveal on my turn. If he stops it, cool. I can go or on his turn I had that. And I can go get on my turn. So like that's again a game state where it's like I can blame the deck because if I didn't have Nib and Mag and I just had Chummies in my deck, it would have been better. But at the same time, it's also just bad matchup. Similar with the Malice, and I mean the Blue Eyes last round wasn't even a deck issue; it was just completely bricking. And this deck does have like around 92-93% consistency with the Dodo Warriors, so it is in that range where it should feel fine enough and consistent enough, but it just didn't. Going forward, naturally we're getting the K9 cards soon, so I don't have to think about the pure deck enough. If I were to redo this event, would I replay the same list again? I have no idea. I haven't thought about it enough. I just kind of keep going in circles of like, well, something went really wrong, but at the same time, I don't really know what is the solution. And I also don't think many of the VS decks that I saw top had better lists. I think a lot of the flaws that have just having bad attributes and losing the draw because you're playing extravagance or stuff like that made the decks that they played not better, and it was just maybe a bit better variance on their part, which happens of course, and they play well with the good variance. That's how you top. So it's not really any negative criticism towards them, but I don't think that it's an obvious comment to say that playing Chummies was the correct decision, especially because I think I'm the only one that probably had a deck list like this. So one person playing this list and one person not topping isn't a good sample size either. So regardless, you can draw your own conclusions about whether I went too far off the Santoli diving board with this deck list and overcooked, or whether it's just a bit unlucky. Overall, I am happy enough with this, and I'm glad to move on to another format because I'm not overly happy with how the NAS format felt. I'll probably make another video regarding the format and stuff like that going forward. I do plan to release a bit more content going forward just because I have a bit more stability and time in my life to invest into this. So if there's anything you want to see specifically, any decks you want me to invest time into, or the discussion videos, please leave comments down below and make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks.